From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. James, how are you today? I am looking forward to another good conversation. We've had several in the past weeks, and we're going to continue on this positive trend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this team. As it sounds like everybody, I'm battling a little cold on the back end of it, so hopefully getting better. How are you doing?
Doing better, and I hope that you're not going to face some of the things that I did. But I feel for you, and we'll try to conserve your voice and hope that things will are on the uptick for you for sure. Um, Recently we had some good conversations, and honestly, we've gotten some good downloads and seen some increased interest. So I'm excited to hear that our audience is liking what we're saying, and I encourage those of you out there listening to please continue to let us know that, in whatever fashion you feel comfortable, whether it's sending us a note or sharing your favorite episode or leaving a comment or talking about it in the Ask the Programmer group in LinkedIn. But we want to hear from you, and it's exciting for both James and I to know that we're getting more listenership. So thank you all for that. Continuing on with the trend. One of the things that we thought would be valuable to discuss and maybe a good interesting topic would be how do you learn to be a programmer? And we talked a little bit about different ways of training and different ways to get started. And James has always been a good advocate of tinkering and learning and breaking things and so forth. But one of the things that I wanted to the angle that thought would be interesting would be how do you learn when you're part of a team and you have a job that maybe you have to do things a certain way, or you're learning from a mentor that is teaching their style. How do you um, learn and then adopt your own style? Is that something that's important, and is that something that um, how do you approach that, if you will? Because I think that the in this world that we're in and in technology, we should never think that we're done learning or we're done growing or we're done expanding or improving upon what we're doing. So um, I wanted to get your thoughts, James, whether it's firsthand or whether it's something that you could provide some advice to people about.
I think you hit it pretty well in the open in that you never done learning, never done growing. So you definitely have to be out there and learning and growing. But there is that saying is if it's not broke, don't fix it. I understand that mentality, but does not mean it is the best or the most efficient way of doing things. I know many people, it's like, oh, you do it this way, this works, let's continue in that way. Well, I did that way because it worked for me. Doesn't mean it's going to work for Steve. Doesn't mean it's going to work for Bob, Joe, Aaron, whoever. Like, bro, each of us as a programmer is we're going to have our own style. Um, so yes, we have tried and true ways of getting things done. And that's the key is get things done. Doesn't mean it's the best way, doesn't mean it's the optimal way. It's the way that works for us. Um, as I always told people, I had no clue what I was doing. I was just plugging cables and hitting buttons. If it worked, great. If I saw black smoke, I know I was in trouble. That's really what it came down to is what worked for me and got the job done.
I think a lot of people can relate to that in this industry because there's really no handbook. There's really no way of saying this is the way you do it. And quite honestly, we don't have many. resources to be able to go to. I the way I learned stuff was by seeing examples of doing common things, and the way I taught people was based on those. And those were the right fit at the right time for me, and they got the job done, like you said, and they worked for what they needed to do, but they weren't necessarily something that you could grow with or necessarily apply to um, the evolution of of AV systems or even programming. And again, it depends on the language that you're working with. But it's but there's always also a trade-off between being able to do things a way that you know works and that you can understand now and in the future and be able to um, modify versus optimize too. And that might be a separate conversation. But I like what you're saying in that there's no right way, and there's also no way that is going to be ideal. There's always ways to look at to say, could we do this better? Um, one thing I'll throw into the mix too is when you're working on a team, that team I think wants to be able to work and help each other and look at each other's code and feel somewhat comfortable. So that also might be a factor too, to adopt certain um, ways of doing things. And I'm going to try to avoid the standard term because I don't think that that's a good use of the word here. But common ways of doing things might be the way of doing it, of saying it.
So I think you hit on a good point there, Steve, of there isn't really a textbook definition of the right way of doing things. But there is clear clear guidance of the wrong way of doing things. And that is not providing what our users expect. That is definitely by far the wrong way of doing things. And some programmers do that, some don't, all that stuff. I think where I'm seeing some of the talks and the trends is what's hard is because there is no textbook, there is no here's the way you do this. Um, you have very entry level folks who coming in and like it was I know we kind of use this analogy, at least I think we did during programming and configuring, is they're looking for the color by number, saying, okay, this is how I program. Here's step one, step two, where really it's a blank canvas and you could do whatever you want. And you're gonna get into trouble if you don't understand. That's why you have to have some guardrails, which I wish there was more guardrails out there. Like you said, there's no real textbook. You can go to manufacturer's training, they're gonna show you their way. Even in the manufacturer training, your instructors are gonna have different. Like you could be a same manufacturer, but you have instructor Bob and Jane, they're going to teach you different because their own style. So it's definitely a interesting note of okay, how do we learn if there is no clear path, there is no doing so it's like, hey, I got a blank canvas and I'm just throwing paint on it.
Yeah, I wanted to tag on what you said too. The wrong way is something that doesn't work, but I would take the compliment of that. I think that's the right term, in that just because it works doesn't mean it's the right way.
Yes. I've actually used that a lot of times is because I have always heard from people, it's like, well, it's always worked when we did this way. Great. Just because it always worked doesn't mean it's the right way of doing things.
Yep.
We have learned, we have evolved, we have grown. Um, like back in, years ago, there was a lot of things we didn't do because or we did because that was what was done. But now people look at it and be like, yeah, no, that wasn't right.
Mhm.
That wasn't correct, but it was at that time. We learn, we grow, we evolve. Just you said in the opening, this you always got to be learning, you always got to be growing. And as a programmer, especially as a programmer,
Yeah, I think it's important too to give some of the new people that are coming into this role the opportunity to speak about their perspective, because that could also be very valuable. Is a fresh way, a fresh set of eyes, a fresh way of thinking, a fresh way of doing stuff to challenge why something is done a certain way, and the answer might not be favorable to that new person, but at least they're challenging it, and at least we're evaluating the way we're doing stuff, and which brings me to the thought of how many people actually look at projects and do a code review or look at how things are done, and be able to use that to grow upon for the next project. And that this may be another topic for a future podcast, because there's a lot to it there. But I think that that's something that is probably we benefit from a lot less than we could in this industry.
correct. And I think my only note on that is I think as an industry is we need to do that more, review, and it's review with the purpose of understanding,
Mm.
not of, oh, this is how they're turning on the display, and then we copy and paste. Cool, you can copy and paste. Anybody can copy and paste. But asking the question, why are we doing it this way? Have we tried doing it this way? Can we try doing it this way? That's where I think programmers need to get their mind setting. It's just because, hey, I did it this way, even if your own code, hey, 5 years ago, I did it this way. That was 5 years ago. I am involved. Let me try doing it this way instead of just copying and pasting.
I also think too that there are probably uh, many ways that somebody can approach something, and they may not know that their way is unique. They may assume that everybody does it that way. And that's another good reason for doing some type of a code review. To be honest with you, and I'll out myself, is we've been doing this for decades, and we don't do code reviews anywhere near as frequently as they should be. And it's only something that we started looking at recently. So it isn't something that you should feel uncomfortable if you're not doing them. And but I think it could be a very good healthy way of learning and growing.
Agree. And I think I've heard this statement, and I've been using this a lot lately, is to truly understand something, you should be able to explain it simple. So if you can't explain your code simply to somebody else, you don't fully understand it.
Yes. Uh, I, I- again, another great point, because if you don't understand your code, then you can't grow with it, modify it, and you're not going to in our world, and in the AV space, it's going to end up causing a problem, because we know that the systems that we do are not static. They need to they're going to grow and be changed. But very, very good point. And I've seen firsthand somebody that um, take making a simple change became a significant effort, because they really weren't comfortable with how to implement their code outside of what they did on a routine basis, or or what it was originally written for.
Yeah, no,
So
I agree.
this is probably a good place to wrap this one up, and I think we've hopefully put some good food for thought out there. A little bit of an advanced topic. Hope that this was well received. I challenge everybody to share some ideas about it, and hopefully you can apply something that we discussed. And also, if you want to elaborate on this, if you want to be a guest or share your thoughts, please reach out to us. The bringing together the community is what we're about, and these types of things I think will really address people's needs and help us all as a whole, and try to ensure that none of us feel alienated or as a person on an island, as we have always alluded to. So, James, how could people get in touch with you, learn what you're up to, and continue the conversation?
If you want to get in touch with me, you can hit me up on the socials, on X as AV_James King. I am on Blue Sky, not active on there, but I'm on there. I check in once in a while. A little more on LinkedIn now, our community as the programmer. So I'm out there. Instantly have my, again, you Google me, you'll find me.
Wonderful. And please reach out and share your thoughts. As I mentioned, for me, you can reach me at Steve Greenblatt on social media and on all the platforms that James mentioned as well, and trying to be a little bit more active in some forums moving forward. You can also reach my company, Control Concepts, which is a supporter of this show. We help to develop the building blocks that programmers can use to either integrate products or expand the features and functionality of their projects, and that could be found at controlconcepts.net. As you may or may not know, we have both a video and an audio portion of this show. So you can find us on YouTube. You can find us in your favorite podcast player. We're seeing the numbers grow in both areas, and we are really encouraged by that. So please keep checking us out there, and let us know what you think, and reach out. And we have some ideas queued up, and we have a few guests that we're trying to bring on as scheduling permits. So stay tuned for that. And we are really encouraged too by the fact that we're about to complete our fourth year doing this. So that's really a great thing that's up and coming, and we'll be celebrating that in a handful of episodes. So please be with us for that as well. And until next time, this has been Ask the Programmer.